Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
So we got our first double episode.
Yeah, this is a concept we talked about for a while. Just games that it'd be way too short to do one game on. So if there's a sequel that we could combine with it, then we're just going to do that. And you're going to see more of these in the future, but not all the time.
Yeah, we kind of talked about, and I forget what episode it was. I want to say it was Hot Shots Golf, maybe, where we were, saying that we had wished that we did too for the single episode. And I personally don't know that I could have talked for that long about just one of the Tony Hawk games, but loved them together. We can also compare the differences. But the interesting part of it all is going to be we're still giving two separate ratings. So you have to really judge it correctly because it's a lot easier to just give the first one a worse score just because the second one's better.
Right. And the point to it also is if we also feel like the second game is just a slight improvement but not too much more of content, then that's why we're doing this. So if we were to do Tony Hawk 1 and then later we do Tony Hawk 2, we're just going to be repeating ourselves a lot because not too much has changed between those two versions. But I do agree that the dual ranking is going to be pretty difficult to do on this episode.
Yeah, I struggled with this one a lot. And I mean, we'll get into it in a minute here, but I just have so much nostalgia for these games. And this is really the first time on this show that we're playing games that I have completed over 5 times in my life each. Tony Hawk 1, I've probably completed over 10 times.
Yeah, that sounds about right for me too.
So I really had to, I don't know, I wrote down these scores and I'm just like, well, where do I feel, what do I feel about it? And I'm like, well, is my nostalgia just fueling this? Like, and then I had to sit there and think about it. And even right until we started, I was sitting here just like, I really don't know what I'm going to do. So the episode, what we say, that will determine it for me.
Yeah, and the amount of time, both last night and today, that I was staring at our score list and our ranking list, just staring at the numbers, and I'm like, where am I going to put this? I have no clue. And I like you said, I feel like I have a good spot, but as always, we're going to see where the conversation goes, and we could change our minds by the end.
Well, it seems like we're both ready to just hop into this, so let's just get into the game. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was released on September 29th, 1999. The sequel, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, was released a year later, almost exactly, on September 19th, 2000, which in itself is fucking crazy.
It's impressive that I didn't realize it was so close between the two games.
I mean, like nowadays, you have Call of Duty and stuff like that that's coming out every year, but those are different teams, so it makes sense at least, they're alternating. But this, like, they just immediately finished the first one and they're like, we gotta go.
Yeah.
So they're both developed by Neversoft and published by Activision. If you don't know what these games are, I don't know what to tell you. They're skateboarding games.
Yeah, I thought about that too. We always kind of describe what the game is. I was like, who wouldn't know what this game is? I feel like even if you don't like skateboarding games, you at least know what this game is.
I mean, like if you're younger, maybe not, I guess. But anybody our age or older, everybody knows what Tony Hawk is. I mean, especially us being into like, quote unquote alternative music, everybody knows Tony Hawk.
Yeah. And with the games out nowadays like Skate and I don't know, Skate's like the biggest game I know of right now.
Yeah, I mean there was a remake of the first two that came out a few years ago too.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, no, it's a really good remaster remake and I beat both games twice again. So
Oh, you beat both of them twice this time around.
No, I meant in the remaster when that came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I 100%ed Tony Hawk 1 for this, and I beat Tony Hawk 2, but I did not 100% it.
Okay. It'll be interesting to get into all that in a little bit. And actually, it's kind of funny that I thought about this a couple of days ago, that last week I said that Siphon Filter was one of the 2 games I got with my PlayStation. Tony Hawk was the other game I got with my PlayStation. So back-to-back episodes are the first 2 games I ever got with my PlayStation and played all the time.
I could not tell you how many hours I played this and the sequel when I was a kid. I started skateboarding because of this. I was never good at it. I actually got a concussion from skateboarding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was just riding down a hill and I fell off. But anyway, I bought a skateboard because of this game. And, if you even want to go farther, and, this might be a little bit of a reach, but I don't think it is. I don't even think I'd be in the band and doing music if it wasn't for this game, because this is what introduced me to music like this.
It's like you're reading my own notes, because I wrote the same thing of just not even me or you, just for most people, I feel like this was their introduction to skateboarding. Like this was the game that got these people going and wanting to do the stuff that they see in the game. And the same with music. This was the game that got me into like the whole, I guess, like punk lifestyle or the punk scene in a sense. If it wasn't for the very first game, I don't know where I'd be with music at all either. So it's crazy that you have these same exact experiences as I do with this.
No, I was really thinking about it. And like, at first I'm like, well, I probably would have got into all this stuff through like, listening to like Linkin Park and nu metal and stuff like that. But then I think like I had to have played this before that, because I got this when it came out, which was 99. I'm like 7 years old playing this game, like just hearing these songs over and over again, that shapes you. And then you want to find more. And then I hear nu metal, and then it, just all leads to just finding more and more extreme kinds of music. And that's where I am today. So it's crazy.
Yeah. I will say, not to just dive right in, but while playing Tony Hawk 1, hearing that drum part right into the horns of Superman from Goldfinger, like anytime I think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, that song is in my head.
There's a documentary that you have to watch.
Okay.
It's called Pretending I'm a Superman, the Tony Hawk video game story.
Interesting. So what is, it's just following like the development of the game, or what?
It's not even about the development. It's about like the impact of the game. So they talk to all the skaters. They talk to a lot of the bands in it. So basically all these bands got popular from the game because all these people were hearing their songs now. And the skateboarders were saying that like at that time, skaters really weren't able to live like off of skating alone. Like they struggled to get by like a musician, I forget which person it was. I want to say it was Chad Muska, but he was like, the game came out, then I went on tour, and the first like skating thing that I did was sold out. And there was so many people trying to get my autograph that I was like scared.
Wow. So this has had a bigger impact than I ever thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's other documentaries about that too, but that one came out like in the past few years. So I watched it recently, I think. It's just crazy to think of the impact of this game, especially like just every person that we know, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's something I thought about while playing these back too, of how does it happen of like Tony Hawk getting his own game, because he was just a skateboarder. What is the process that he gets chosen? Is he the first one to come up with the idea? Was he the first one to be approached? Because we have this all the time of like Michael Jordan in baseball or basketball, where he is like the basketball person who has the games, who has the brands. Now LeBron is taking that role in like wrestling. You have John Cena, who goes off to be an actor. You have The Rock going off to be an actor. Like, how do these specific people branch off to do these bigger things?
I don't remember, but they do talk about how he was picked and how like he helped develop it at the time, And in the documentary, they get into it. It's very interesting.
I definitely want to check this out now.
But yeah, now that all of that, gushing about how important and how much we love this thing is, like, so what was your first impression? Starting up Tony Hawk 1, like jumping into that warehouse, how were you feeling?
Just like with last week, I expected things to be worse, but it was exactly as I remember it being. Like, for some reason, probably because they were my first two games, like it just burnt into my brain what it looked like, how it moved, how the songs were, just the vibe of everything. So going back into it, I'm like, oh yeah, I got to do this and this to get this, and I got to do this. And I was very surprised just how I remembered where a lot of the secrets were in this game. Never touching it for this long. I'm like, oh yeah, I just need to go up here and do this one grind to go over to this area. Like somehow that's like burnt into my brain and I don't understand it.
So I actually 100% completed the first two levels in one run each.
That's crazy.
That's how much I remember these games and how much I love them.
Wow. I'm impressed.
I mean, you could probably just show my footage in full of this in the video because like it's only 2 minutes.
Yeah. I will say like with the school, I'm like, okay, I remember a lot of this stuff, but there were some instances where it took me a second to remember of, oh, okay, now I know where I'm going and what I'm doing. But aside from that, it was never too much of a problem to just jump back into this game. I did 100%, I think, a lot of the levels leading up to where I stopped. I didn't finish the game.
You didn't finish Tony Hawk 2, right?
Or 1. I didn't finish either.
Oh, okay.
Just because we talked about this before. I felt like I could play this game for 5 minutes and I'd be ready to do the episode because of all the memories I have. And at that point, I got to the point I'm like, yeah, I remember all this. I thought I would forget a lot, but I didn't. So I'm good to go. Plus doing double games, I needed to save some time to actually play the second one because I never played the second one ever in my life. So that was going to be a brand new experience for me.
That is interesting. In the first game, the only tape that I couldn't remember where to find was the hidden tape in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
I spent like a good 10 minutes trying to get it in the wrong way. And I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I'm like, hold on a second. And then I like figured it out and, got it pretty quickly after that. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to go through 1 and then 2, or do you want to talk about them both at the same time?
I think we should do 1 and then 2. I think that's a good way to do it.
Okay. I just don't want to reference things and, kind of stay focused.
So I guess going through the first game, who did you play as when you did that?
I played as Tony Hawk.
Yeah, me too. I remember as a kid, I played every single level with every single character back in the day. But with this, I'm like, I'm just going to go Tony Hawk. That's his game. I'm going to play him. And I'm not really determined to get every single person through this. But
well, in this game, like you unlock a character for 100%ing it. But like, other than that, like, I don't think you get anything significant for like beating every character 100% or anything like that.
No, it's just one of those things. If I did it once, then let's choose the next guy and go through. And then, did you remember the special moves at all?
I remember how to do the 900.
Even that, I was just on a half pipe. I'm like, I'm just going to try every button combination until I can figure this out because I could not remember what they were at all or how to do them.
I typically don't ever use them when I play these games just because you can get more points by just doing regular combos and, combining tricks together. Like you don't need to do that.
Yeah. Which we kind of talked about earlier too, before starting of American Wasteland. And there's so many times I thought about Tony Hawk and realized that those features are actually only in American Wasteland. So whenever I jumped into this game, like for example, you jump in and when you grind, you don't have a meter. It's all visually. You have to watch the guy and see where you are.
I want to say that's Tony Hawk 3 that does that.
Oh, okay. And just some stuff like that. Like when I jumped in, I tried the manual and I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't exist in this game. Which then it makes your combos a little bit more complex because you can't manual in between rails or something. So you really have to plan out your lines really well between gaps and rails.
I mean, to get high scores, I do the same thing every time. I just go into a half pipe and I do a grab and a flip and I spin.
Pretty much all I ever did too.
But it's fun. And that's the weird thing. It's like I'm completing all these levels in the same way, but I'm just having a great time doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's only certain times when I know specifically on like the school level, when time is running out and I needed to score, you just go on the pool and you just go around the pool and keep doing combos on the rail. Because even if time runs out, you can keep going until you land the trick. So
yeah, when I was playing it, I was thinking, there's really no replay value here, huh? Like, what would be the point in playing it again? But, today, I'm like, I could just play it again before the episode. I could just do it. And it would just be fun. And it's not because I have to. It's just because, like, I want to play it again. It's also only an hour. Like, I 100% of this game in an hour. So, like, even if I didn't 100% it and I just, like, got through all the levels, that's, 40 minutes probably? 45 minutes? It's short, but it's just really fun.
But you can also just do the free skate and you can just have fun in the level that you choose with no time limit.
I was never into that.
Oh, really? Why? I
just feel like without a goal, I don't really care.
I guess. I see it more like in the free skate, you're literally doing what the game is supposed to be of just skateboarding. But the goals is kind of an additional thing that takes you outside of the skateboarding game in a sense. But I remember as a kid, like you said, the replayability. I remember me and my friends, we got everything done, but then we would make our own challenges for each other. Like, oh, can you do this like big trick? Or how many times can you do this flip trick before you wreck or something like that? And so it was nice of that, like, because these levels are bigger than I remember them being.
I honestly feel like most of the levels in this first game are just flawless.
Yeah. The design is just on point. Everything is just smooth and you can't get lost anywhere. It's just everything is nicely laid out. I thought that too whenever I was playing.
Well, just talking about the levels generally, like, how do you feel about the downhill levels?
And so I wrote, as a kid, I hated the downhill levels, and even to this day, I hate the downhill levels. I think those are the bane of my existence.
Yeah, it's not that I hate them. It's just like, that's not what I'm there for.
They're not bad levels. They have fun to them, but it also is frustrating, especially on the mall. Like, well, this applies to both of them, but when you have to backtrack because you missed something and now you're going uphill trying to find the thing you missed before time runs out. Or let's say for the mall, you have that hidden tape where you have to jump off and blind land on a rail to get to the tape. You miss that. Now you got to work your way back up and then try it again. So that reset to do that thing again is so long on the downhill levels.
Yeah, I would just restart if I miss something most of the time, just because, like, whatever. It's not that long. By the way, you don't have to do a blind jump to get to that hidden tape.
Really?
What I do is, like, up top where you break, like, the directory thing.
Yeah.
I just grind on that rail and jump, and then you can make it to that railing.
Oh, okay. I do it from the side ramp where there's that car.
Yeah, I just mean, like, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
That's just the way I always knew it as a kid. And I don't think I ever did it from the directory route.
It's harder, but it's more satisfying to me. Just because, like, you're already grinding. So, like, when you get there, you're already off balance.
And going back to, like, the whole resetting thing on the, what is that, the canyon level?
Downhill jam, I think, or something.
Like, that one was where I was getting so frustrated because I knew what I had to do. It was just, like, especially that very first ramp that you jump up to the pipe to get to the first valve.
Oh, yeah.
The amount, like, you just might be a hair off and then you miss the trajectory to hit the rail. Or you think you popped off right, but you didn't, so you didn't get high enough to even hit the rail. The amount of times I reset the game just to get that rail perfectly was so frustrating.
I luckily got it my first try this time, but I know that pain 100% from all the times I've played this game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about timing, right? It's all about, like, learning the rules of the game and getting it perfect.
Yeah. That's the best way to put it.
Back to the levels, I just feel like I also don't really care for the street-oriented ones.
Why?
I just like having a nice condensed space. There's a little bit of street stuff, but then there's some vert ramps. I don't really like riding around with where there's cars around and, like, having to, I don't know, there's the bigger areas, it becomes more frustrating to me. Not frustrating, but, more frustrating compared to the other kind of levels. I like the more condensed design and the more streamlined kind of park building, as opposed to, like, here's New York. It's just a big open thing. There's not really anywhere that you can, like, reliably do tricks. So you're just kind of, like, riding around. I know that's the point too. The point is to, like, make it so you have to do other stuff. Like, you're not just getting on a vert ramp and getting all the points. But that's what I like about the game. So I just want to do that,
I completely get that. I think the cars, I mean, they're fun, but they can also be very annoying. But like you said, even whenever I was younger, playing this game, especially in the street levels, whenever I needed the points, I'd find an area that I can make into, like, a half pipe area. And you just have to be lucky not to get hit by a car. And you're just using the two sides of the road to do your tricks nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, in the New York level, for example, I just go in the area with the fountain and just do it right there. But regardless, it's personal preference. It's not like I'm saying they're bad. It's just, for me, I prefer just the more vert-oriented levels.
I get that. It's just one of those things of the street levels are more, you get to explore a little bit. Whenever you have the warehouse and you have the inside vert levels, it's kind of like everything is just there and you know that it's there. But the street levels, it's like, oh, I didn't know this area existed. I didn't know I could get here. And then it's like a little bit of exploration while you're playing the game.
No, I agree. It's not a bad thing. It's just, I don't know. Nothing to me feels satisfying. It's just like racking up the points in the vert in a level. You know what I mean?
It's crazy to me too how the levels are the same thing. You get points, you need the skate letters, and you need the hidden tape, more or less. It's crazy to me how, even though it repeats every single level, it never feels like an old concept. Just like, oh, I need to collect skate again. But the way it's set up is different. So it always feels new and unique every single time.
Yeah, like as the game goes on, they're harder to find. You have to figure out where everything is, and then you have to do it in the time limit. Usually, like, what I would do in the levels I don't remember where it is, I would just spend one run just finding it all, And then the next one, I would go and collect them all.
Yep. I did that on the first street level where with all the taxis going around.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
Had to do a little ride around to spot everything before I actually went and did it because even though I knew where some stuff was, I couldn't remember everything about it.
So what was your favorite level in the first one?
Oh boy. For some reason, the school always reached out to me. I always loved the school level. I couldn't tell you why. It just always seemed the most fun.
I don't know why, but I always really liked the skate park Chicago one, like the first contest.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's very straightforward, but based on what I said, I like it. So
yeah.
And obviously, the warehouse is top tier.
yeah. And I think with those, like with the competition one, it's just like when we see with the X Games and whatnot, like we see those giant wooden vert ramps. So with that one, with Chicago, it kind of replicates all that stuff that we associate with skateboarding, at least when we were younger.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know some of these are real. I don't know which ones, but the second competition level, Portland, that is a real place. I've always wanted to go there, especially when we're on tour. Be really cool just to see it.
Yeah, that'd be really sweet. The way I've always thought about it is that I think they're just vaguely mimicking other like real places in a lot of them. But it's just kind of probably like, oh, maybe we can't use this name, so we're just going to kind of make it similar and so people know what it's like.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite like special move, like as a kid or now?
I don't really use them in the game ever.
Oh, really? My favorite one whenever I was a kid was Rune Cliffberg's. He does the Christ Air.
I do like that.
Yeah. It just visually looked the best, I think, on screen. But then like Kareem Campbell's Casper slide was always really cool too.
I don't even know what that one is. And it's just funny because like I see no reason to use the special moves just because they don't do that much for you. Because you can just get those points other ways. You know what I mean?
I will say I used them more in the second game than I did the first game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a novelty thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, look at this impossible thing that a person, well, most of them, that a person wouldn't really be able to do.
So we talked about this a little bit, but what did you think of the competition levels? Like, do you like that idea?
It was fine. It's stressful for sure. Like you want to make sure to land everything perfectly and get the biggest combo you can. But at the end of the day, it was never too much. I don't think I never had a problem with them ever. So
I personally think that maybe there should only be two because there's three. And I think both the games there's three. They end the game on it because, like it's over and you can have the ending cutscene and end the game. But I think it would have been a lot cooler if you had one final, just big, culmination of everything as the final level. But they never do that.
I will agree that when you're done with the second run, you're like, okay, I'm done with this. And then you got to go a third time. And there's always that like, oh, wow, I got to do this one more time type thing. Though I do like it because I know the first time on the first competition one, I screwed up my second run so bad because I had like a big combo and I fell and then time was running out. Didn't have time to get my score up. So the third one, I did well. And because my first and third runs were really well, I got first place because of it. So if it did base it off of two, I would have been screwed.
Yeah. I mean, I just like that after you do the second one, if you feel that you did good enough, you can just end it right there.
Oh, can you? I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Yeah. If you, after the second one, you can hit end competition and it just ends it and it takes your first two.
Oh, see, I saw that. I just thought that just quit you out of the game and you had to start over again. That's good to know.
Yeah. I mean, I never did a third run of any of these.
Which, with that, you also have the option to end your run at any point on any of the levels and restart whenever you want, which is a very nice feature. If you screw something up, you can quickly restart, or when you think you're done and you want to start over again with a fresh time limit, you can just end the run.
Yeah, I mean, this game is very accessible, especially with it being like an arcade style game, And we talk a lot of shit on time limits in games, but the time limit in this game is absolutely necessary, and I think it helps make the game what it is.
I agree. I wanted to get your input on that, though. Do you think the 2 minutes is a little too short?
I think if it was longer, then it would be too easy. How long would you like it to be?
I don't know. I couldn't think of a good time limit, but this will be more when we talk about the second game. The first one, I never had an issue with time. Like, obviously, I couldn't finish everything in one run all the time. You did have to break it up, but I think a lot of it had to do with me knowing the game inside and out and just knowing where to be and what to do, which is why I put a little bit more time into the second game because it was a fresh experience. And with that's where I really started to think about the 2 minutes. And I'm like, this seems a little too short for the time being.
I am so anxious to hear what your experience is of the second one, because having never played it is crazy to me.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, just limited amount of games when you were a kid. I made Tony Hawk last for a very long time. And I think I was also just, it was that time period of, oh, here's all these other different games. So instead of buying the second one of Tony Hawk, I have Tony Hawk. Let me get other new games that I don't know about so I can play those instead.
I mean, that's a good mindset. I just love the first one so much that I had to get the second one.
I get that.
Interestingly enough, I never played 3 or 4 ever. So whenever we get to those, I will have the same experience as you.
And I don't know which ones I've played, to be honest. I know one for sure, an American Wasteland. If 3 and 4 are in there, I won't know until we start playing them. I played a few Tony Hawk games for sure.
I have played 1, 2, Underground 1 and 2, and American Wasteland. I think that's everything.
I forgot about Underground. I may have played that instead. I get so confused on which ones are what in my brain.
I feel like after Underground and probably after American Wasteland, it's kind of hard to remember which one is which, because like the Underground ones I think stand on their own, but American Wasteland to me is just like not as iconic.
Okay, so maybe I'm even confusing the two.
I mean, that's just me personally. You know, I'm an asshole, so that could be the one everybody likes.
Yeah, I don't know. It would have to be one of those things where I go back and play them to remember what they even were like.
Yeah, so I guess we can get back into a little bit more of this game before we move on to the second one. Because, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, we're not going to talk about again when we get to the second one. It's not like we're resetting.
Right.
There's very, very light customization in this game. Like you can pick your board. You can adjust the trucks. And I don't understand why anybody would not set them as loose.
I did medium.
You could just turn faster when they're loose. So like that's why I automatically put them on that every time.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done loose or hard. It was always just medium for me. I think loose would be too wiggly on the turning.
I've never played it any other way.
Oh, okay.
Because like when you're at the menu and you can adjust it, it shows that your stat is like going up for turning. So like as a kid, I'm like, oh, higher stat equals good. And then I've been doing that every time since.
I get that. With the turning, I had issues with this way back in the day. And again, this time when we played it, where sometimes when you would turn, you would bump into a wall and your turn wouldn't, you have to maybe turn the other way or to get around. It's like, did you run into that at all? Or just an object kept preventing you from turning around?
Well, yeah, I mean, you bump into it and then your guy like stretches his body out like weird and then you can't like move. And it just like turns you in a weird way and you're just like all disoriented now.
So I guess maybe the loose trucks help with that?
I don't know. I mean, I've just only ever played the game that way. So I just assume that's the way that everybody played it. You know what I mean?
See, I would love for you to play with like medium trucks and then me play with loose trucks just to see how big of a difference it actually makes.
So this game also, your stats go up, but it happens as you play. You don't control any of it.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that because I know when you look at some of the boards, like the ones that you have yet to unlock, it will show you that some stats are going to go up when you get a new board. But I didn't know that stats actually increased as you play.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you start with the base stats of the skater that you pick, and then they all go up as you get more tapes. And like after you beat a level, and all those things pop up showing what you did, what you unlocked, and stuff like that, it will say like your stats went up a few points or something. Like it'll tell you there.
Oh, okay. Maybe I missed that.
Well, we're also just like skipping past it really quick to get back to the game, so I can understand why you would miss it. I did find out something new about this game when I was playing though.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Do you know if you push select, it changes the camera?
No, I don't think I ever knew that.
Yeah, one is a little more zoomed in and one is a little more zoomed out.
Interesting. That would definitely help with like trying to see stuff.
It's not that far zoomed out, but it's just a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I pushed it and I was like, hold the fuck on. How did I not know about this ever?
Yeah, I don't think it's something they even call out in the controls menu at all. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much went through all my notes for this. One negative, I would say, and this is based on personal preference, I guess, but I don't like that you can't see the goals for the level while you're in the level.
I was thinking that too as an improvement on this. The obvious improvement would be when you're grinding, have a meter like they do later on. But yeah, just a simple screen of, oh, here's everything you did and here's everything you need to do still. Not trying to remember it. And then if you forget, now you have to go back to the whole level goals and then it takes you out. You have to wait for it to load again as you read it, and it wastes a lot of time. And I feel like there's a more efficient way you could have done that.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't fix that in the second one either. So I don't know when or if they ever did.
No, it could have been an easy thing in the start menu, I think.
I agree. Just a little list. It's not that complicated. Well, before we move on, there is one important thing that we have to talk about, and that is the soundtrack.
Okay.
We haven't gotten into it at all, other than how much we loved it. But what's your favorite song?
Like I said, Goldfinger, Superman. It's just the one that sticks out in my head the most. But it's one of those things of whenever I was playing, every time a new song came on, I'm like, holy hell, I remember this song. Like, I haven't thought about this song in how many years, but I remember it. Like, Jerry was a race car driver. Like,
that is my favorite. That's what I was going to say.
Nice.
I love that song. I love Primus. It's so just, imagine, I'm 7 years old being exposed to that. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because not too long ago, I was thinking about that song. And I was thinking, I've heard this in a video game, but I could not put my mind on what video game I heard it in. And so it's crazy that when it came on during Tony Hawk, I was like, holy hell, this is the game that it was in that I always thought about.
It's funny because like the songs obviously don't finish by the time the run is over. So I just have it burned into my brain where they end because of all of that playing as a kid. Like by hearing where the song is, I know that like my run is almost over.
I didn't even think about that. That's an interesting way to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I just know the way the song ends and I know the way that it fades out after the run ends. It's just crazy how much I've played this in my life.
And then there's others from like other musicians that I still now can't even think of who they are or what the song is, but it's just one of those things of when it pops on, you know it instantly. But for me to like try to explain which one it is, I couldn't tell you.
They have multiple playlists on Spotify that have the game soundtracks, and I frequently listen to them. So I do have a question. Do you want to do our scores now, or do you want to wait until the very end?
I was thinking about that as we were wrapping this up.
I could read the review for Tony Hawk 1 because I made sure I picked a review for each game from the same outlet so we can compare. So what do you think? Should we just do it now, or do you want to?
I think that's a good idea. If we do it now, we won't be influenced by the second game to give the first game a different score.
That's what I was thinking, because if we're doing them both at once, then we can be like, well, Tony Hawk is this, Tony Hawk 2 is that. It's easy to have that perspective. So I will go ahead and read this review from GameSpot. Obviously, both of these games got crazy good reviews, so it's easy to, see that. GameSpot gave Pro Skater 1 a 9.3 out of 10. And they said, career mode doesn't take a whole lot of time to complete once you've gotten familiar with the levels. But even after completing the game with all skaters, you'll still want to go back and do some free skating. It's one of those games that will keep you coming back long after you've mastered it. Which that's what I was saying earlier. I mean, even if I don't do free skate, I just want to keep playing it. Like I'll beat it over and over again.
Yeah. And a big thing too, and I will say this early on, I was going to save it for the end, but me complaining, not really complaining, but saying about the 2 minutes being not enough time. The more I thought about it too throughout today before we started recording was, that's why we have free skate. Like free skate is the option to learn the level and you can ride around, see, okay, this goes here, this goes here. So then when you finally do get into the career mode, you at least know the layout of the level. So even if this is your first time playing Pro Skater 1, that's how I probably would tackle it nowadays. And then at least you know how everything is laid out. And then now the key is just finding all the things you need to find.
Well, keep in mind, though, you have to unlock the levels in career mode before you can do them in free skate. So you would have to like go back and forth.
All right, scratch that.
I mean, you can still do that. Like you unlock a new level, you get out of career mode, then you just do free skate. You could do that.
Yeah. Which now thinking about it, now that we brought that up, that might be where the trucks come in. Maybe like specific levels you want a very loose truck, but then other levels you want a very hard truck.
I'm not sure. I should have experimented with that more.
I just now thought about that. I don't know which level you would want the hard trucks in, but I could see that.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
reviews.
Yeah, this is tough, especially not knowing what I'm going to do with the second one. But nostalgia aside, I don't really have. We haven't complained about this game at all.
No.
We had small notes, but like, I just don't know what would justify me bringing down my rating from a 9. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, you're going 9. That's a very good thing. My whole thought, and there's two ways to go about this, because it's, yeah, we're ranking it on its own, but also ranking it knowing that what they did later on. Which I guess isn't the spirit of the things because that's not what we do with any other game. This is a very unique problem. But I was thinking about not a 9. I was thinking about 8 or 8.5, just because there are some things that could have been a little bit better, like some little things here and there. But all in all, it wasn't a terrible, terrible experience. I think, like you said, we never had anything negative. Even playing it, I never had any negative thoughts that much. So I think I'd just go for the higher end of that, and I'd go 8.5.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So
Tony Hawk 1 is now number 1.
Yeah, we are now at an 8.75 for the number 1 spot.
How long will it stay?
Till the end of this episode, probably.
Well, we'll see. All right, so let's. This has gone way longer than I thought already, by the way. So
yeah, I looked at the time code and was very surprised at how long we talked about the first game. But I don't think the second game is going to be too much longer.
I was going to say, did we make a mistake making this double episode? Now it's just going to be way too fucking long.
I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right, so with the second one, obviously, we've already described what the game does. So there's a general upgrade in presentation immediately. Just the way everything is, it's just more polished. The graphics are slightly better. The menus are better. Everything is just better. I mean, and we could even stop there and say, that's our review. Everything about this game is better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the menus are a little bit slower, which kind of annoyed me. I know when you try to click on something, the screen where it fades between is just so slow compared to the first game. I don't know why they would do that. Maybe it's just a lot more to load in between.
That's true. It might not be something that they deliberately did.
But going back to what you're saying, it's like they just took the first game and they're like, how do we replicate that without making the same thing? So the first one, you're in a warehouse. It's a bigger warehouse. It's more stuff in it. So second one's school, a lot bigger school level than the first one. So they easily could have just replicated everything over again, but they decided to just upgrade and go bigger with everything.
Yeah. I mean, even before we get into critiquing the things that we want to critique, I feel like we should just kind of go through and talk about all the things that are different. And, the first thing right off the bat that you notice is you can create a skater in this game.
Yeah. Did you do that?
I did. I created a really funny one. You're going to enjoy it.
I thought about doing it. I'm just like, I just want to get the gameplay. So I didn't really do that.
Yeah. I mean, you can also create a skater. And why did I just say that? You can also create a park.
Which I did that. I did that part.
Well, I didn't. So.
Oh, perfect.
So the create a skater is actually very in-depth for when this game came out. There's a lot of options. And there's a lot of different things you can choose from. I was expecting to go into it and it was going to be pretty simple, but it was actually really good. And you can make fucking crazy monstrosities in this if you want to.
And then you can just use that in the game for the career mode, right?
That's what I did, yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, then your footage is going to be hilarious.
I didn't go too crazy, but I did make it pretty silly.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mess with the Create a Park, but I don't know if you saw this, but they include a ton of pre-made parks that they made with the creator.
Yep.
I played a few of those just to kind of get a vibe for that. But
okay. Yeah, there's a lot of pre-made, and the creator itself, kind of like what you're saying, it's very in-depth with the amount that they give you. You could spend hours on just one park, making it as perfect as you want it to be. And I was just kind of messing around placing things. I never really did a test ride of it. I just wanted to see what the limitations of everything was. Pretty much all the most is that they have a meter on the side that goes to 100%. And I think that's to cap out how much stuff you can actually put into a level. But for how much I put in, and it still wasn't to 100%, I think you could go huge with these level designs.
Yeah, some of the pre-made ones, you can really tell. And I would imagine once you hit that 100%, the game probably would run like shit if you kept building after that.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely to prevent people from having a bad gameplay experience.
My favorite of the pre-made ones, I didn't play them all because there's so many, but I played one called Montana.
Okay.
And it's a giant area and it just has one tree in the middle and that's it. There's no ramps. There's no rails. It's just one little tree. I thought that was pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Unfortunately, I didn't look at any of the pre-mades. I should have. That's funny. I like that.
I tried another one called the Wall of Death or the Pit of Death. And there's a big pit in the middle with spikes. So,
you know what? Now that we're talking about this, I may have played the second one and I just don't remember that much.
Maybe.
Because that sounds familiar and I didn't do it this time around.
Hey, I mean, there's a lot of pre-made parks that I fucked around with as a kid because like you beat it, I'm out of levels. Like, what am I doing? You know?
Unless maybe I just rented it at the time.
That's true too. So going on with the improvements, you have stat and trick customization in this game. As you play the career mode, you get money, and you can use that money to either change your tricks and upgrade to whatever you want. You can customize all your special moves, and you can upgrade your stats as you want. Like you can do whatever you want, spec your character anyway. I mean, you have to 100% the game to get them all up all the way, so I didn't do that. But a lot of customization, which is interesting.
And it's really nice too, because whenever you go to like the whole buy a trick thing, they actually tell you what your specials are this time. So there's no guessing on the combination that you need. Now you can just go to that screen. It's like, oh yeah, to do this trick for them, you just do this button press and that's it.
That's true. I didn't even think about it that way. Yeah. I would go as far as saying that the soundtrack is better as well.
I wanted to say yes to that, and I have it in my notes that they went bigger with it too. But is that bigger because we were now involved with that scene at that point? So now we're like, oh, I can't believe they added this, or because the music from the first game could have been huge at the time. We just weren't around for that time period to know how big they actually were.
I really just like that the second game's soundtrack has a lot of different vibes and genres and things like that. Whereas the first one is, has a little bit in there that mixes it up, but for the most part, it's all kind of a similar sound.
That's true. Yeah, they bring in, Rage Against the Machine, Papa Roach, Power Man 5000.
Yeah, dude, they're going off.
There's a few rap tracks in there too, which are really good. I love the variety that they provide in this and how big the names are that they put into this too.
Yeah, I mean, I just overall like the soundtrack for 2 better. And that's not to take away how good the songs are in the first one either. They're both just amazing, but the second one has more and just has some more, to me, better songs.
Yeah. And they also add having to be more perfect with your landings, which I think is a nice little touch.
Yeah. It doesn't impact too much, but, it can help you to get higher scores.
Yeah. You can, I think it's just perfect and sloppy. Yeah, it's just that if you get a sloppy, you get slightly less of a score than if you landed a perfect trick.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a nice little touch to make you feel good if you do good, and if you do bad, they're just like, haha.
Yeah,
it's like the noise, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's also one thing too of they could have easily just copied the gameplay of get the skate, get the hidden tapes. Here's the score. That's all you need. The goal list in this one is monstrous compared to the first game.
I have some opinions on that, but we'll just do it right now. So I don't necessarily know that more objectives makes it better.
I think it's the whole let's keep them into the level longer. Like, let's keep you playing more, because you said in the first game you completed the first 2 levels, everything in one run, which is very impressive, especially for the school level. But with this one, it's impossible, downright impossible to do it in one run.
Yeah, there's no way. My biggest gripe is just, especially after you do every single one, there's little, things of money hidden around the level, and you have to find all of those to 100% of the level. And I don't like that.
Oh, I didn't know that counted to your 100%.
Yeah, so after you get every other goal, at the bottom it says find all cash and complete all goals.
I don't like that, yeah.
I'm like, I did everything you wanted, and now you want me to scour the level for every bit of money? Like, I just don't want to do that. I mean, as a kid, yes, but like now I don't want to do that.
And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the 2-minute time period. Well, I guess you can use my technique of going to the free play to do this, but specifically on the school level for 2, I saw the hidden tape. I could not for the life of me figure out how to get to it. And I was rolling around, and I used at least 3 to 4 runs, not doing anything except trying to figure out where I was supposed to go to get this hidden tape. And like looking up in the sky and like, I know I need to get to this area, but how do I get here? And I couldn't figure it out. So that's the one level I couldn't get the hidden tape on.
So what you have to do is, there's that second area that you can get to from the very beginning.
Right.
There's a little ramp in the center by all the railings. You know what I'm talking about?
I believe so, yeah.
You go up that ramp to get speed, then you come back down. Then you can launch off the planters, like the little, all the plants and stuff. You jump off of that, and it gets you onto the roof. And then you can jump across and grind to get the secret tape.
I never would have thought to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that one from being a kid. So I would go as far as saying that I think the levels in this game get worse as it goes on.
Yep. I'm so happy you said that, because I thought the same exact thing.
I'll just say, you didn't play them all, but New York City's the one in this. I was mixing that up with the first game, by the way.
I figured you were, but I was just letting you go, yeah.
I don't love that one, but at least there's a lot of stuff to find in that. So it's at least interesting in that way. I don't like Venice Beach. I don't like Philadelphia. And the last level doesn't really matter because it's just another competition level anyway. But that level is cool. But specifically, New York, Venice Beach, and Philadelphia, I don't like.
Yep. And Venice Beach was the one where, I mean, I had to stop on just due to time. But I was very frustrated with this level just because it was the first level where I thought, this isn't good level design of how everything's laid out. New York, I can kind of agree with you on that. I think New York was the first time I was like, this is huge levels compared to the first one.
Well, there's that whole hidden area in New York that like, there's all that other stuff that you can't find unless you go there. So like,
what's the hidden area?
You know, when you go up and you grind the subway.
Oh yeah,
and you go all the way down. Yeah.
I like that in a sense of, again, it comes back to when you explore, you see more of the level. I thought I already saw a lot of New York until I found that area. And I'm like, wait, there's even more to explore that I didn't even know about. But I will say I give it to them where they give you the graffiti of hidden tape symbol with an arrow. So they kind of like realize that these are a lot bigger levels. So they're like, okay, we're going to give you a little bit of a hint of how or where this is located.
Exactly. But, you know, compared to the first one, I didn't feel that way in the first one. So, like, just as the game goes on, I don't know. Like, I barely did any of the goals in Philadelphia because it's just like the way that it's laid out is annoying. I don't know. And I think that a lot of that too comes back to like, I don't like the street levels as much as the vert levels. But I agree with you 100% that Venice Beach is very poorly designed and the goals are annoying and not fun to do.
No, this might not even be an exaggeration. I probably did about 30 runs on Venice Beach. The first maybe half of those were me just trying to understand where things went, how to get to certain areas. And so a lot of my runs are just nothing happened because I'm just trying to figure out, how do I get over here? Okay, I figured that out. Now, how do I get over here from here? And it's just bad. That's just the only way to put it. It's a bad level.
The one that took me the longest was the one where you have to find the 3 gaps, where you do the gaps between the vert ramps.
I didn't get that one. I tried. I couldn't find them.
I was determined to beat the game, so I just kept going. But I don't blame you at all because even as a kid, I hated that level.
Yep. The whole thing with having to like ollie over the homeless guy, it's okay, you find him and then he moves. So more or less you're wasting time trying to find where the second location is. Okay, that runs over. Now you got to go back, get the first location, figure out where the second one is. Okay, now where's the third one? So it's a constant of slowly progressing through the level, but having to keep doing so many runs until you finally figure out what you're supposed to do.
It just seems like they got a little carried away with what they could do and didn't think about how annoying it would be to traverse that level. And that's how I feel about Philadelphia too. There's like the part in the center that has all the stairs and ledges, and it's just very annoying if you don't hit every grind perfectly and you get stuck somewhere.
Yeah. And on top of all that, I kind of like this, I kind of don't. This one seems like they wave the hidden tape in your face a lot more. It's like, we're not going to hide it. Here it is. You can see it. Now try to get it is the whole thing.
Yeah, here it is. Figure it out.
Yeah. Which I think I was on the right path to getting it, at least in Venice Beach. I just didn't care at that point anymore, so I didn't try.
I don't blame you. I don't know. I just feel like maybe it was because the game was rushed so much that like they couldn't put the proper attention to detail in some of these levels. But at the same time, like this game got higher scores in the first one by everybody. So at the time, it probably felt like a big jump, even though some of the levels aren't as good as the first game.
I get that.
Also, we didn't talk about manuals at all, by the way.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
Okay.
That was the other thing they added, which very nice. Love that they finally put that in there. Weird though, because they give you the manual balance meter, but they still didn't put the grinding balance meter. And so it's odd that they decided to do it for the manual, but not the grinding.
Yeah, I was kind of annoyed when I grinded and it wasn't there. I'm like, really?
But it's a very nice little feature of that I think should have been there from the beginning. Maybe they just didn't have the time to put it in. It just allows you to string together runs more, get those higher combos, which I really like.
I really like how they increased the score goals because they know you can manual and just get those scores up really high. If they had the same goals as the first one, you'd be able to get that immediately.
Yeah. They added the, what was it, sick score or something?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, these first two are doable, but this last one, you really got to try to get this last goal. They also added the switching your stance, which I thought was cool.
I forgot you could do that in this game. Yeah, I never did that.
Yeah, so I guess in the first one, you could do a switch stance just by landing the opposite way from your character standing. But this one, they have a button now where you can actually turn into a switch position. And they give you the option to now go into a nollie position, which in the first game, you had to do a special button press to do a nollie. This is like, no, go ahead. You can now stand on the front of the board if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. Just more options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of went through everything, honestly. And my feelings on this game are complicated because I played this game just as much as a kid, but like going back now, I don't know how I feel about it.
It's one of those things of they clearly went bigger. They put a lot into the levels, a lot into now more skaters that you can do. And it just, because of all that, it felt like they could have just done more features within the skating itself. But I think that's something we're going to see, especially when we go to 3 and 4, that every single game adds something new. And then you just get to that point where now you can do literally everything in the game. It just took a while to get there. So I think we just see that slow, steady progression of, oh, now we added this. Oh, now we added this.
More does not always equal better either.
It's a weird thing I have with my head of, am I annoyed with these levels because it's me diving into it in the first place? Was I annoyed like this playing Tony Hawk for the first time as a kid? I unfortunately don't know that answer.
Well, I'll answer that for you. Yeah, they're annoying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I was questioning myself as I was playing, and I'm like, do I just hate these levels? Do they suck now? Like, what? Did I just not remember? But like as the game goes on, I was just like, I don't know. I don't really like these levels as much. And it's not even that they're harder or like they seem to me like they're just not as well designed and they're not as fun to just traverse. Whereas like the best Tony Hawk level, it's fun to just skate around regardless of anything. Whereas some of the levels in this game are not even fun to do that.
Yeah, it's actually, we did talk about that just a little bit ago of how perfect every single level is designed so that you can just freely get to where you needed to be without thinking much about it. There's especially Venice, and I just talk about this because this is the one I hated the most, was they have a ramp that you go up the ramp and then when you come back down, there's just a wall in front of you that you slam into. It's like, who thought that this was a good idea for the level to just have a flat wall that you crash into?
I would gladly take any level in Tony Hawk 1 over Venice Beach.
Yeah. Even the downhill levels, and I hate those. So that's saying something.
I agree. One thing I found that was interesting, by the way, when I was going through the settings in this game, there's a demo for Matt Hoffman's BMX.
Yep. I wanted to bring that up too. Did you play it?
No.
I did.
I played it as a kid. It's fun.
Yeah, I did too. I played it as a kid. So seeing that this was in the game, I'm like, ooh, I played this. So let's go ahead and try this out too. I love how it's just like, let's take Tony Hawk and let's put a guy on a bike to do the tricks instead. Because that's what it feels like.
I mean, that's literally what it is. I'm very excited to get to that eventually.
There's also another BMX game, Dave Mares, I'm excited to get to at some point.
I've actually never played those. I only played Matt Hoffman because I knew it was the same people that made Tony Hawk, so I knew what it was going to be like.
Makes sense too, because it's all the same problems of no grinding meter and just all the same issues we have with Tony Hawk at this point is visible in the Matt Hoffman game.
It's just crazy that they finished Tony Hawk 1 and then they started 2 more games.
Yeah. Hey, they got so much money off of the first game.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
You probably heard that story about the Tony Hawk having a meeting with his manager or something.
No.
So it's like right after the first game came out and he met up with his manager and they got some coffee and they're talking. Just a casual conversation. And at the end of the conversation, the manager's like, oh yeah, here's the money for your game. It's doing pretty well. And Tony Hawk opens it and it's a check for $4 million.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I can only imagine just how much this game probably made him.
Good for him. He seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. It goes back to that thing of, I want to study pictures of Tony Hawk so I know what he looks like in real life. So I don't become one of his posts.
Oh, I love all of his posts. Like the ones at the airport and stuff.
Yeah. So one thing too, the amount of skaters they have in this game, they throw out even more. So crazy that they got Rodney Mullen in this game.
Yeah.
Like the OG top tier skater they get into this game. And I think that's just amazing.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Bam is in the third one.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, they just, they were working each game to add just people that you knew and recognized. Also, I didn't unlock this because I didn't 100% the game, but if you 100% it, you unlock Spider-Man in this game.
I was going to ask you about that because in the title menu, like before you push start, at the very bottom, there's a disclaimer thing like Marvel copyright, blah, blah, blah. Like, who the hell is in this game that you need a Marvel copyright?
So we'll probably play this whenever a Spider-Man movie comes out or something, but the company that made these games also made a Spider-Man game.
Oh, I think I know exactly the one you're talking about.
I played that so many times as a kid. I've beaten it so many times. I'm very excited to get to that one too.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that kind of brings us to the end here. I can go ahead and read the review for the second one, and then we can get to our scores.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
So GameSpot, again, gave Pro Skater 2 a 9.9 out of 10, which is
insanity.
Insane. Why didn't they give it a 10?
Yeah, what was that 0.1 that they found wrong with it?
So here's what they said. The first game already had extremely tight gameplay. The levels were designed with big trick combos in mind, but there was room for personal style and innovation. Tony Hawk 2 opens up the concept even farther with the addition of manuals, essentially front or back wheelies, which you can use to link trick combos together when crossing flat land. The larger levels of Tony Hawk 2 are extremely manual friendly, yet the manuals never give the game a gimmicky feel. Instead, they really give you even more control over your skater and open up the scoring for even bigger combos.
It sounds like this person just really likes manuals, is what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about the way I kind of play, so like, I don't do a ton of manuals, but at the end of the level, when it's almost over, you got to hit a quick grind in a manual and bump up the score real quick.
Oh, yeah. The main time I mainly did them was during competitions, and if I really needed, if I was already so close to the score that I needed and time was running out.
So, we've kind of already talked about this game for so fucking long. I'm just going to get right into this. We had no negatives with Tony Hawk 1. None. But we had some for Tony Hawk 2. And in my opinion, while this game is better on paper, I think it still does some things wrong. But yet, this is still an amazing game. This is still a near perfect game. So I'm going to give this the same score I gave Tony Hawk 1, a 9.
Wow. So weird, because I thought I was being a little bit unjustified by not liking some of the levels. So it's really nice that you agree with me on that.
I even want to say a little bit more. Like, I feel like I almost like Tony Hawk 1 and 2 for different reasons. It's like Tony Hawk 1, I can kind of play for like an hour and beat the whole game and just go through it, maybe switch to the next skater, do it again, just for fun. Tony Hawk 2 is more you're exploring and you're getting through the game and you beat it once and you're like, that's enough for now. I need to take a break with all the extra goals, with all the extra customization, all this stuff. It's like, by the time you're done with it, you feel like you've played a video game, like you're done with it. Whereas with Tony Hawk 1, it feels more like this idea, this bite-sized arcade game that you can continue to keep playing over and over again, but it doesn't feel like the full experience of a whole game, whereas Tony Hawk 2 does,
I get that. That's actually a good way to put it. Like you said, there's a lot of great things. They improve on being able to do combos more. They improve on level design for the most part. I mean, like we said, it does get worse, but I don't know. It's a weird thing for me did I just play the first one so many times that in my brain it sticks out more? But the fact that you agree with me on the level design not being super great, and I agree, I think they do focus more on exploration, but that goes back to my problem with the 2-minute time of you have all this stuff scattered everywhere. So to do 5-6 runs just to figure out where all the things are is just a lot. It's a lot to do. And so by the time you're done, it's why I never 100%ed any of the levels, because by the time I got a decent amount of goals done, I just wanted to move on to the next level because I was done with that level. I don't think it's terrible and it doesn't hurt the game too much from my end, but I do think it's a little bit less than Tony Hawk 1, just because it seems like they went a little bit crazier.
Wow.
Not by much. I was thinking this would be an 8 for me.
Okay. If you're going to do it, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to go to 8.5.
Why didn't you want to do it?
No, I seriously was thinking the whole time, like, am I a dumbass for rating it worse? But like, I just genuinely enjoyed the first one more. And I've played them both dozens and dozens of times. So it's not like nostalgia for one or the other is like pushing me over.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I want to believe we're not doing just nostalgia here for the first one. I think the level design hurts it a lot. Yeah, they included a lot of features that are great and it pushes the game forward. I just feel like they got a little too carried away on what they were actually producing within the levels. And maybe on 3, they fixed that and now everything's combined as one coherent video game.
This is, by the way, a very unpopular opinion that we both have. So just preparing you for that.
Hey, we gave Tomb Raider such a terrible score. So
Hey, you're not afraid of anything now.
exactly.
But no, I was actually thinking this the whole time, even like going up to the episode, I'm like, should I rate Tony Hawk 2 better just because it is better in a lot of ways, but I still enjoy the first one more? It's very confusing.
So I was the exact same way in the beginning. I originally had Tony Hawk 2 a little bit higher than Tony Hawk 1. But with our conversation, and exactly like you said, we did the entirety of Tony Hawk 1, never mentioning one negative, because there's just, aside from the downhill levels, but that just seems more like personal choice than anything. Tony Hawk 2, just the amount of negativity with those different things. Granted, it's a small amount of negativity, but if we can go that long talking about Tony Hawk 1 with no negativity, and this one has a little bit, then it just already shows that it's not as great of a game.
No, you're right. And, if we were on more of a scale and not just the 0.5s, I would probably have them a little bit closer, honestly.
I think so too, yeah.
Like maybe 8.75 to a 9 or something. But at the end of the day, I just feel like I could play Tony Hawk 1 again right now. Whereas Tony Hawk 2, I don't really want to, just knowing that some of those later levels exist.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I kind of do want to go back and play the later levels because I saw the Venice Beach. I do want to try out Philadelphia like you were talking about. But to get there, I need to get more money to unlock that level. And I don't think I want to put in that time right now to even do that.
Yeah, I mean, Venice Beach is the most annoying one. Philadelphia is not as annoying, but it's still, I don't like it for the same reasons,
I get that. So that puts Tony Hawk at 3. So Tony Hawk 1, The Adventure of Little Ralph, and then Tony Hawk 2 are the top 3 right now.
To be fair, while we're talking about, giving it a lower score, it's still number 3. It's not like it's like the fucking bottom or something.
Yeah. It's still in the top. It's still a very fun game. Now I'm curious on where 3 and 4 are going to land. Is it going to be up at the top as well?
We'll find out one day, but probably not for a while.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.